My MMA loving brothers and sisters, we need to talk because there is funny business afoot in the UFC. Well, there always is, but right now we need to look at this current issue. And the issue that I'm talking about is they are blocking Arman Sarukian from a title shot because they are trying to artificially create matchups. And that is not what the UFC was about. The UFC was always about the best versus the best. In fact, Dana White and the UFC brass always use that as a real marketing platform for the UFC because boxing protects their fighters. Boxing is not the best versus the best, whereas UFC is the best versus the best. If you're the number one contender, you will fight the champion. And the champion has no right to say, no, I will not fight the number one contender. They have to fight the number one contender. But lately, we have not been seeing this in practice. We've been seeing something different. Ever since the acquisition by TKO, we have been seeing a different complexion for the UFC. The UFC's brother company, the WWE, artificially creates everything. Obviously, it's not a real combat sport. And I'm worried that that is trickling so much into our sport that our sport is going to lose credibility because we're seeing it happen right now in real time. Arman Tsarukyan is the number one contender. And yes, because of what happened to his back, he pulled out against Islam Makhachev last minute. And that does put a bad taste in the UFC's mouth. Obviously, you ruined an event essentially. Luckily, Money Moicano stepped up, but you almost ruined an entire event. And I get it. But if his back was really that jacked up, I mean, what's he going to do? Go out there and get his ass kicked and lose his one chance to get the belt? I mean, I get why he had to do what he had to do if his back was really that hurt. Then Dana comes out and says, actually, it was a weight cutting issue. Arman Tsarukyan's like, nah, dude, it was a back issue. So that is clearly, in my opinion, Dana White trying to make Arman look even worse, trying to really make the fans be like, oh, yeah, well, fuck Arman if he couldn't make weight. And even if that was true, even if he didn't make weight, well, he made weight as the backup for Ilya versus Charles Oliveira. So he proved he can make weight at 155, regardless if that is the reason why he didn't fight against Islam Makhachev, which Arman's swearing it's not, and all the reports at that time were confirming it was a back injury. And if you watch the video that he did with Nina Drama, this idiot was so clearly going to hurt his back with the bullshit he was doing. I mean, he's trying to impress this thought, and he's doing this weird circus clown bullshit with his back, and you can clearly see, I mean, he's going to torque his spine in fucked up ways, get injured, and he's not going to be able to compete. I mean, duh. But he paid the piper, okay? He didn't get his title shot. Charles Oliveira got the title shot. So he had to weigh in. He had to do a training camp. He didn't get to fight. He paid the piper. It's time for him to fight. And even after Ilya won against Charles, in his post-fight Octagon speech, he said there's a guy who had a back injury and there's a blonde-haired guy. So he mentioned Arman and Patty. But Joe Rogan only chose to acknowledge him calling out Patty. That doesn't feel like an accident. It feels like the UFC told him, hey, if he calls out Patty, get Patty in there. If he calls out Arman, ignore Arman. Because Joe Rogan instantly was like, you're talking about Patty. And then the UFC cameras instantly panned over to Patty. The UFC security instantly let Patty in the octagon. It was clearly orchestrated. Clearly. So we're seeing a guy that's ranked barely 10 getting poised to get the next title shot. It makes zero sense. Outside of, this is the only reason it does make sense. They're trying to give Ilya an easy fight to win to keep building his resume so that they can eventually do the mega fight with Islam Makhachev. They wanted Islam Makhachev to move up to 170 because they didn't want Bilal Muhammad to be the champion. And of course, Jack Della Maddalena ruined that party. He became the champion. But even Jack, Islam has a bigger following, so they want Islam to be the champion there. So Umar Nurmagomedov said on record that they came and talked to Islam and asked him to relinquish the 155 strap, move up and challenge for the 170 strap so that Ilya could relinquish 145, move up to 155, win that strap, and then they could set up the biggest fight since Conor and Khabib. That's their goal. Because it makes no sense to give Patty the title shot over Arman Tsarukyan, who is the #1 contender. He defeated Charles Oliveira not that long ago. Of course, he punched a fan and all this other shit happened. I think he got suspended for a little bit for that. But he defeated Charles Oliveira, the guy that just got the title shot. Therefore, he's the guy that deserves the title shot. And Justin Gaethje, he thinks he deserves it. But Gaethje's credibility to deserve the title shot is nowhere near what Arman's is. Arman has been essentially unbeatable. Sure, he lost to Islam, but he gave Islam a tough fight. And that was his first fight in the UFC. Arman's a really good fighter, and he is the clear-cut #1 contender at 155. And if they don't allow him to fight Ilya, it is match fixing. Ilya was on a podcast recently and said, I'm not going to fight Arman. No matter what, I'm not going to fight Arman. Dude, that's not how it works. If Arman's the #1 contender, you got to fight him. You don't get to pick and choose who you fight. And the only reason I think Ilya's saying this is because the UFC had a meeting with Ilya and said, you are not going to fight Arman. You are not going to fight Arman, and you will not talk about fighting Arman. You will not give any credibility to that idea. You will not even give any attention to that idea. And Ilya, of course, is going to follow that because Arman's not only a harder fighter than Paddy Pimblett. I'm not saying Ilya's running from Arman, but I am saying when given the opportunity, he's going to make more money off the Paddy fight, and Paddy's an easier fight. So, of course, makes more sense to do the Paddy fight. But we've been seeing it for a while now. We saw it with Tom Aspinall and John Jones. They just refused to strip John Jones of the belt because I guess they were trying to establish Jones as the longest tenured heavyweight champion, and they were negotiating a new contract. So they wanted to have Jones as a bargaining chip. I really can't pinpoint the exact reason that they would not strip John Jones. But it's unacceptable. You are the champion, and you have an interim champion there. You have to unify the belts. You have to fight the interim champion as the champion. And if you don't, well, then you have to give up the belt. And that's not complex at all. That's not hard to understand at all. That's not a crazy concept. That's how it works. When there's a interim champion, it's because the undisputed champion couldn't compete. And the interim champion's the placeholder until the undisputed can compete. And then eventually they have to fight because you have to unify those two belts. And that just never happened. They refused to force Jones's hand. And we've been seeing it for a while. And I'm just tired of it because this is not what the UFC is supposed to be about. The UFC is supposed to be about the best fights the best. We have an event coming up. Yair Rodriguez is fighting Alexander Volkanovski. Yair Rodriguez already got his ass beat by Alexander Volkanovski. It makes zero sense, zero, to have him fight Alexander Volkanovski again. He's coming off a one-fight win streak where he beat Patricio Pitbull, but Patricio Pitbull is 38. It was his first UFC fight. And Yair, yes, I'd say he clearly won, but it's not like he finished Pitbull. If he landed a spinning wheel kick and knocked him out, then we're talking a different story. But the only reason they needed Yair Rodriguez to fight Volkanovski is because the event is in Mexico and they needed a Mexican fighter to headline so that they can get more Mexican money. And it's always about money. And of course, any company, it's always about money. But with the UFC, the backbone of it was supposed to be the best fights the best. Period. And we're just not seeing that anymore. And it's frustrating. And if you're a real fan, you should be frustrated. You should be pissed off. And then Dana White wonders, the UFC wonders, why don't people want to pay for pay-per-views? What's up with that? Because, motherfucker, it's $80 and you're not even having the best fight the best. Not only that, but you're diluting it with all these fight night cards. So the UFC has a lot of issues right now and they need to fix it because it's trending downward. It's trending downward. The profits might be trending upward, but the quality's trending downward. And in the long run, when the quality goes down, the company goes down. And that's that simple. And if you love fights, you'll love my channel. I promise you, I'll keep pumping out great content for you guys. If you like my video, leave me a like. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And as always, stay tuned for the next video. MMT out.